Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Salesforce Simplified. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. I've got Derek Assis with us. Derek is our subject matter expert on lots of things Salesforce. I was talking to someone the other day about Derek's background and somewhat telling them that he can do everything, and that's of course not true. Nobody can do everything, but the idea that he has a good base knowledge of a lot of stuff, and then with things like Health Cloud, where he spent a lot of time at Salesforce, he can pretty much do everything. That person then turned around and asked me about something that just came out or has only been out a few months and said, well, it doesn't look like he's an expert in that. I'm like, well, nobody is. It just happened.
Yeah.
And that was specifically around data cloud and, the opportunity there to grow is, for a lot of people. But let me do the XenTegra commercial real quick. So, XenTegra has invested in building a Salesforce partner because we believe that there is a massive need for Salesforce partners, especially for serving customers that are commercial size and smaller. Um, there's a lot of partners out there, but you get what they think you should get, which in a lot of cases isn't true partnership around helping you implement, manage, maintain, support Salesforce in a way that fits your organization. We ran into that, so we started a practice. We had Derek standing by to be able to come in and do this. We had the need, so we solved it for ourselves, and now we're applying that to customers that we want to work with. Derek, this is a little unique because it's not a blog from Salesforce, which we typically do. This is a kind of a write-up that you come up with around Health Cloud,
Yeah.
and you wanted to cover that today. So I'm going to let you do most of the driving here, but I'm going to be, asking you questions along the way or responding to questions from you along the
Yeah.
way.
Or I may be asking you questions. So yeah. Good
So the
stuff.
topic is, what is Health Cloud?
Yeah. And the reason, and so if you go back and listen to some of our other podcasts, we briefly went through a lot of these, and then now we're kind of zeroing in on some of them, right? We'll do, probably touch on some other clouds down the road, on other podcasts, because I think it's important to take a step back and understand all the different ways that Salesforce, the company, and Salesforce, the platform, can be used and can be consumed by a customer, right? Outside of the traditional CRM based usage. And I think that one way to really get a good understanding of how different it can be is when you look at Health Cloud. So that's where we're going to start. And I'm going to start by first asking you, somebody asked you, do you know what Health Cloud is? What would you say?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to answer this the right way. I have a lean towards the idea that it's a instance of Salesforce that's been customized for healthcare type organizations to be able to instance probably not the right word, but it's a built version of Salesforce that's kind of healthcare centric, but you can then turn around and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good, right? It's exactly what you said. It is a purpose-built platform that sits on top of Service Cloud, um, for the healthcare and life science industry, right? And so I'm not going to do a lot of reading on this, but I do want to call out some things I think that are important, right? And it's the health consumer relationship being top of mind. What Health Cloud does is it connects data from legacy systems like EHRs, your Epics, your Cerners, your McKessons, claim systems, patient service programs, device inventory, brings it all into the engagement platform, which is Health Cloud. And there's different areas where Health Cloud can be that engagement platform, right? And so it's the interesting thing is that just like any other cloud, you could go ahead and buy a license for Salesforce platform and you could build Health Cloud, right? You could go and rename objects, you could create processes and automations and everything,
Yeah.
and it would take you years to get to this point. That's the whole idea behind what Salesforce does. They go out and they model these industries and these best practices and these data models. And so you can start with something that's already pretty much modeling what you do.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
Jared, quick question for you because you caught me like I'm so used to Salesforce from a CRM perspective. and you just said it was based on Service Cloud. Does it
Yes.
make any sense to kind of lay down like a foundation for Service Cloud real quick?
Yeah, we can do that. And so Service Cloud, if everybody, when you think of CRM and you hear about Salesforce, the traditional thought is, oh yeah, sales, right? Salesforce, Sales Cloud, which is your traditional accounts, opportunities, contacts, and leads, and CRM, contact relationship management. Now, Service Cloud goes in conjunction with Sales Cloud, and that is the service aspect of Salesforce where you've got customers that have a problem and they may open a case, and you may have a solution to that case. So you may have a knowledge article that's attached to that case. You may have a chat bot on your web page that somebody can go and try to do self-service, and they can pull up those knowledge articles that were created when somebody helped another customer close a case, right? And these cases can be anything that's important, that's pertinent to the business, right? It could be, hey, my grill stopped working, I need a new part, all the way to, I need to understand if you got my payment, that type of stuff, right? It's a service, it's a customer to business concept of customer service. Now, there's a lot of characteristics in service that that model was kind of renamed and re-architected for Health Cloud with a lot of other stuff put on top of it. And if you can see, and I know that the podcast folks can't see, but I've got a picture here that shows Service Cloud, right? With cases, collaboration, knowledge, the omni-channel, which is I was talking about with either somebody doing a chat bot. We also can have somebody call in. And now think of this. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Service Cloud and I'm connected to my call center software. Somebody calls in, that number is recognized because it's the number on a contact record. It pops up their name and immediately opens up their contact record before I even answer the phone, right? And now I've got all their information. I've got everything that they're doing with us. And so it's not, hey, who are you? It's, hey, Derek, how are you doing? How can I help you? I have a problem with an order. Oh, was it the order you just did yesterday? Because I have all that information at my fingertips, right?
Oh.
But on
Yeah.
top of that, Health Cloud does things like a care plan and assessments, a health timeline, patient, like a household mapping, right? Because it's important to understand from a healthcare perspective, who else is in your house? You have a wife, spouse, kids, you have grandparents, to try to understand like who can help support somebody in a situation where they may need care. Does that make sense? Like it's the underlying data model has been adjusted to kind of speak the language of health and life sciences, right?
What I love most about, that concept is that what do you think? For most organizations, 60, 70% there before you start doing any customization, or is it higher or lower?
Well, it depends. Like I'm going to give you that traditional, it depends. I think that yes, you are. I mean, from a healthcare perspective, you've got a lot of the things already thought out. You've got a lot of and when I say things, I'm talking about the data model, right? You've got like the HL7 data model. You've got HIPAA compliancy. You've got a care team. A care team, what's that? It's your doctors, right? And you've got the information that you put in there that you would want about a doctor. They have licenses and stuff. All that stuff is there, right? And so to your point, you just start using that tool to do care management, to do care coordination, right? And why that's so important is because if you're using the out of the box features, then every 3 years, 3 times a year, when Salesforce adds something to this, you get to use it. If you roll your own, you're on your own, right? Because Salesforce is not going to augment or enhance any custom solution that you wrote. That's why this is so important, is to get to this starting point, and it reduces your time to value. I've been saying that for years in different contexts, right? But if you can reduce your time to value and start seeing benefit of these platforms, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple things that like to level set here, and when I went from Citrix, it's interesting, like the journey, right? I was at Citrix, then I moved into for a small window. I moved into the ISV healthcare team, and I got kind of got into the Epics and the like that world. Then I moved into Salesforce role in the health and life sciences division, and this was kind of my world for 5+ years. So who do you, I'm just going to ask you, and I know you're looking at the screen, but when we say health cloud and I talk about patient coordination and patient care, who do you think I'm going to call them actors would be, or the people involved in a solution like this, off the top of your mind?
Well, I mean, the first people that come to mind are the front desk people and the people that answer the phone. As far as interacting, but then I immediately go to the physicians somewhere along the way,
Yeah.
because their time is money, and of course their time is extremely valuable, realistically the most valuable in those organizations.
Now, who would be the actors or people involved in Sales Cloud?
Well, what do you mean by the actors? The people that use it, or the people
Yeah,
that are,
people using it. Yep.
well,
Or
again, there's,
people using it, or people that are benefiting from the platform being used.
well, I think it's the patients.
Yeah. Well, so in Health Cloud, right? So there's a couple of them, right? So patients are obviously you and me. Then you've got providers, right? So the providers are hospitals, clinics, doctor offices, etc. You have payers, right? The healthcare. So it's the organizations like the health plan providers, Medicare, Medicaid, that collect payment. You've got pharma, early drug development, long-term drug development, drug trials, right? I mean, so we live right down the road from LabCorp, right? A big name in that type of thing. And you have med device. So any business that basically has a device that's deemed by I think it's the FDA as a medical device. And then you have public health, right? The idea with public health being it's the science of protecting and improving the health of a community, right? And so I'm bringing this up because these areas hit on a lot of the solutions that come out of the box with Health Cloud, right? You've got your providers, your payers, your farmers, med device, public health. Now, recently announced was the life sciences cloud, which kind of brings a little bit more focus into the drug development piece of this. But these are, when we start thinking about, where does this fit? Who's using it? Why are we using it? This is the population. These are the entities, and the benefit is the patient at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Well, it's illogical that it would be the patient. There's lots of people that benefit, but the patient ultimately, hopefully, pays less, gets better service. Absolutely.
Yep. So the next question I'll ask is, like, why do you think and I've kind of already alluded to this a little bit, but why would we even need a health cloud? Could we just do this with Service Cloud? Could we just do this with Sales Cloud? What are your thoughts?
It wouldn't be tweaked enough. It wouldn't make enough of a head start. I guess anybody could customize it to the point where it did it, but why do you want to take on that ownership of that piece?
Yep.
In the short term, no, and in the long term, no.
Yeah. And I thought this was interesting, in some of the things I was reading, it was mentioning about how much is involved in the life sciences industries, right? Something said $4 trillion alone, and the shared goal of improving the quality of patient care and health outcomes. And that's a big thing, right? Outcome focused. And so in order to do that, you have to start bringing things together, right? You have to move past disconnected, siloed, not connected systems and have a platform of engagement, right? And that's, when you think of Health Cloud, this is an engagement platform for the people that we just talked about, right? So it could be insurance, it could be a doctor, it could be somebody taking care of like home healthcare, things like that. Okay. And like I said, there are built-in data models that come out of it. We talked about the household data model. There's clinical, insurance, social determinants, providers, and another thing like utilization management. So the point I'm trying to drive home here is that there is a solution almost in every aspect of healthcare. Now there's gaps, don't get me wrong, right? There are gaps. And there was a significant gap while I worked at HLS because there was no life sciences cloud, which there is now, right? So they're closing some of these gaps, especially around early drug development and drug testing, and um, the cell therapy is a huge one. I mean, there are so many moving pieces in cell therapy. I don't know if you've ever looked into that, where the plasma gets taken out, it gets delivered. They actually put stuff, they add antibodies to the plasma, and I'm probably not doing this justice, but then it comes back to the patient. They put it back in to try to save a patient. That's like usually the last straw for a patient.
Right.
I mean, that is like some massive life-saving technology. And so all that stuff has to be tracked, and it can all be tracked within this platform based on the setup and the data model that's present, right? It's and so you see how I haven't mentioned a single thing about an opportunity. I didn't talk about a lead. I didn't talk about an account at all, right? It has nothing to do with that. And what I'm hoping people listening to this are doing, like the aha moments, like, oh damn, I didn't even think about that. Salesforce, I mean, it's not just the way that I think about it. It's so much more, and it can be so much more, right? Um, so the other thing that I thought was interesting was engaging. So I think, and I don't know, let me ask you this. So has your expectation of healthcare changed in the past 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I expect them to know more about me, for me not to have to tell them everything. It doesn't seem like like the old days, I felt like you were starting over every single time you went somewhere.
Yeah.
Now it seems like they know a lot more about you, and that the experience is better, and you kind of come to expect that at a minimum, a digital experience when you walk in and you're not filling out 5 paper forms anymore.
Yeah, that you've already filled out, right? At some other place. But
Well,
the other
especially when
thing,
it's the same general organization, like, you're going to healthcare system X and you
Mhm.
go to a different specialist in a healthcare system, you hope they know a little bit about you.
Right. That's to me, that's table stakes right now. And I honestly think that we're also dealing with significantly more educated patients. Like, it's not the black box, and maybe I'm wrong, but for me, it's not the black box mentality anymore. Like being aware of your healthcare and being aware of your options and your choices and the different solutions. And it's not just I'm going to the doctor and it's a black box on what they're going to do to me. And I don't even know what things cost. I just know what the bill is. I think those days are gone. And in order to provide that level of quote unquote service to a patient, you have to have a solution like this, right?
Um, but Derek, how many what do you think the percentages are of people that do have this type of solution?
I think I wouldn't be able to put a percentage on it, but the ones that are competing, the big ones, like your large health organizations, have to have a solution like this. They have, most people have done like a my chart thing before, and obviously you've been inputted into an Epic system if you've visited a doctor at some point. The 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 point like is that if you, like you just said, that you feel like they know more about you and you feel like it's easier and stuff, and if you're experiencing that, that's the goal. So if you've gone somewhere and not experienced that, then they're not using something like this. That's the problem,
Yeah.
right? And so if they're using a system, or if they're consolidating and they're starting to understand how to reach out and how to tailor your healthcare to the best that they can for you. And what I mean by that is somebody could have a symptom of something and there could be a medical trial coming up. Would be great if they knew that and sent you an email about it, right? And maybe people don't even know what a trial is. Like, how do you even get involved in a medical trial? And what does it mean? And then what happens if you stop in the middle of it? Things like that, right? And so you have to be able to, you have to create a relationship. And when I say you, it's the healthcare organizations, it's the payer, the providers have to build a relationship with the end customer, the patient, right? And the way with siloed and separate systems and stuff, it's just it's not possible. Definitely not possible right now. So interestingly enough, there's a lot of within the payer provider, pharmaceutical, med tech, there are a lot of like sub use cases. And the one that really kind of jumps out at me is insurance. Everybody understands, like, okay, so what happens if I call into a call center or a hospital or a doctor clinic, my name pops up and I just got new insurance. So they should be able to like get that insurance from you right then and possibly see what you're qualified for, right? So that they can actually take action while they're communicating with you. Not this, okay, well, we'll get back to you in 4 days, right? And so the way that the ability to have all those things connected, integrations with the payer providers, integrations with the insurance companies, the ability to validate an insurance card and validate coverage is extremely important, right? Because at the point of service, it's a big concept. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I mean, we're still getting physical insurance cards. I guess there's got to be at least some insurance company out there that's doing some type of digital insurance card that's super
Yeah.
shareable and populates these types of systems.
Yeah, I mean, and I get the physical one and then I just put it on my phone, like some of them can get sucked into the Apple Wallet or it can get sucked into other things. Like, so there are other solutions outside of Health Cloud that are doing similar digitization stuff, but it's the same concept that we talk about in sales. Like the point of the 360 platform, right? This is to have an end-to-end view of a customer. So every touch point the customers had with you. And I'm talking about everything from the minute you put them in your system to every email, phone call, meeting, conversation, uh, customer service case, return, issue, complaint, all the way, right? You know everything. It's the same thing with Health Cloud from the patient perspective, all the touch points. Now that gets us to the question that's usually brought up. Well, is it trying to replace like the Epic? It's not, right? And this is a big this is a big important piece to understand is that it's augmenting the EHRs. They're never going to go away. EHRs are for your in clinic visits, right? Your diagnosis, your appointments. What this does, it sits on top of that. It can surface that information and bring everything together, right? It's the engagement platform. I keep saying that. It's HIPAA certified. That gets brought up a lot. It is. That's readily available if you go to the website. And again, like they've got a lot of this compliancy that needs to be addressed when you're talking about healthcare, right? You got your HL7 fire. That's the stuff I was working on, right at the last point of the things I was working on at Salesforce was a direct integration from Epic directly into Health Cloud. So I went onto a patient record and actually searched it. So what would it look like? Looks like this, right? And so if I go, and this is Health Cloud, and Andy's looking at it right now because we share our screens. But I want to get your thoughts as we look at this, right? So what I'm showing here is that I can come in here and search for a first name, last name, date of birth, and hit next. The integration will go out and search Epic and find me, bring me in, and now I've actually connected two systems, and the person engaging with me has all that information at their fingertips.
Yeah.
Right.
So what I knew going into this, but something you said a while ago made it make sense, especially when you start talking about the electronic medical records piece. This is the customer insert word patient, or let's call it customer patient relationship management piece that now what you're showing here integrates with your electronic medical records
Yeah.
and takes, that electronic medical record piece and makes it more customer touching friendly.
Yeah. And so if we go look at care coordination, and so what we're looking at here is a today screen. So think of me, I'm a care coordinator right now. So I'm taking care of individuals. And so you can see we're using analytics like we would be from a sales perspective, but has nothing to do with sales, has to do with people and their lives and their health and their score and their clinical, right? And I can actually see, do I have any patients here? This is what it would look like if somebody called in, right? I click accept, and what it's actually doing is it showed me, and right behind the screen, it pops me to Charles Green.
Yeah.
So what you just saw it for everybody is that a phone call came in and it brought me contextually to the person that called. And now I have information. I can see all the immunization, all the allergies, all the health conditions, all right here on one screen. And so that's the key. And the integration piece is important because this is a highly regulated, for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
area to work in. And so you have to have this stuff. And this is why I'm saying, if somebody wants to go do this on their own, okay, well, now you've got to go and get certified, right?
Yeah.
You've got to go get HIPAA certified. You got to get the fire. You've got to go do FedRAMP. You got to do all this other stuff, right? To
And
make sure.
Derek, this is essentially air gapping, what that particular person needs to be able to see versus, having access to the complete electronic medical record or some subset that's hopefully been secured from you. This allows you to see that user piece that's, important for this role, but you're not actually accessing the system of record for, some of that more important stuff, some of that more um, stuff that's specific to the end user, that the patient that maybe you're not supposed to have access to.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, if you think about it, so this is like we're having a conversation about Salesforce. We're having a conversation about Health Cloud, which is built on top of the Service Cloud foundation and totally focuses on patient and healthcare and health outcomes, right? And basically has nothing to do with the sales aspect of what everybody typically thinks Salesforce does.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to do is paint this picture so drastically different that it's understood that, whoa, now, because we could have a conversation just like this about manufacturing, about building cars, where we're looking at available pieces of, available car parts. We have the same conversation about financial services, where we're talking about accounts, right, and insurance and things like that. We have the same conversation about higher ed, where we're talking about students and classes instead of patients, and that's the point, right? Um, but Health Cloud, in my opinion, is one of the solutions that's typically it's not known as much outside of the people that have been in the health and life sciences area as much, right? So if
Yeah,
you're
we're we're
having a
struggling
conversation,
internally just to get our people to understand that Salesforce in healthcare is very applicable. You're coming from a world where it was mainstream because you were touching those customers. Our customers maybe have not even been exposed to this customer centric type of platform,
yeah, and
patient centric.
and we have, I mean, so we've done business with a lot of healthcare customers at XenTegra, right? And a lot
Yeah.
of them, and so the conversation isn't, hey, are you using Salesforce from the concept of opportunities, counts, contacts, and leads. It's, what are you doing for your engagement platform? What do you guys do? Like, what are your goals? How are you guys competing out there with the large, huge conglomerates that are providing health, for people? And this more than likely is a piece of it somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, they at least need to have exposure to it, which is what we're doing here. And then over time, if they're going to compete, they're going to need this. It's just a matter of when it makes sense for their organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And, for anybody listening that's interested in more information about Health Cloud, what I recommend is obviously go to Trailhead. You can take a bunch of trails and see the different solutions for it. You can actually get a demo org that has some of this set up so you can see it live and play with it and touch it. And then obviously there'll be a whole bunch of this stuff at Dreamforce coming up in a couple months. So it's to me, this is what makes this platform so amazing, is that it's like polymorphic, right? It doesn't have to just be one thing. It can be whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what fascinates me so much.
So, Derek, anything else you haven't covered here that you want to?
No, I just that it's tough to get in, you don't want to go too deep in this, but I think we cover basically high level, some of the good pieces of Health Cloud, and hopefully somebody, everybody listening learned a little bit something about Health Cloud, and maybe you have been through it and you don't know it, and that's good if you're having better experiences.
Yeah. So I think what we do is make sure our sales team sees this, hears this, because, like you said, we've got a lot of healthcare customers. They may already be doing this and need more help, or they may not be doing it yet, but an opportunity to have this conversation with them is, it makes complete sense.
And they may not, they may not know, right? I mean, so some of the smaller ones may not know that there are solutions like this out there, and
Yeah.
that's our job to let them know that there are.
Yeah.
So,
And we can right size it for them.
yep.
Derek, appreciate the time.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Andy.